had communication with Banks for a long period of time, right?
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him, what a problem is. I put him, like, where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip club.
50 Cent takes some responsibility for Lloyd Banks for toting Ayo.
What responsibility? Like a parent?
You're the leader.
What responsibility am I taking for him? Like, explain to me.
That you didn't encourage them to be independent
Nah,
sooner.
that's not true.
At last, Lloyd Banks is speaking up about what actually transpired between him and 50 Cent, and he's not holding back this time. He's criticizing the 1950s for rewriting their history and for being disrespectful and telling half-truths. When G-Unit first emerged, it was one of the most potent hip-hop movements. Yes, Banks was the force behind the rhymes, but 50 was the face. His voice, bars, and delivery gave G-Unit a lot of game weight. At least it appeared that they moved like brothers. However, as fame took over, things began to change. 50 started berating Banks in public, accusing him of being lazy and claiming that he didn't want it badly enough. He even made it seem as though Banks had given up on himself by dragging him into his book. Banks remained silent at the time. He simply kept his head down and avoided interviews, Twitter feuds, and covert criticism. Now, though, he's finished. Remaining quiet, Banks spoke candidly about everything in a recent interview. He claimed that calling someone lazy was not only incorrect but downright offensive. What's the most painful part? When things became tough, 50 wasn't even present. Banks claims that 50 wasn't there to help him through the most trying periods of his life. Additionally, he claims that although 50 believed Banks had fallen off, he never quit working, he just didn't do it the way 50 desired. He remained committed to life, music, and personal development on his own terms. And he's finally correcting the record after years of silence. 50 moves though. It wasn't something he took lightly. 50 immediately returned with a shade of his own when Banks dropped that interview. Their friendship seemed to have lost all significance. Supporters are divided. Some believe 50 helped establish the brand, while others believe he has been using his day ones as leverage. The question that now needs to be answered is, what actually happened to that G-Unit loyalty? Has 50 been deceiving Banks for years to preserve his reputation, or was he always telling the truth? Can be resolved, or is it irrevocably done? And where do they even go from here? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. To ensure that you don't miss the next in-depth analysis, remember to like, subscribe, and enable notifications. You're already aware.
The guy has Lazy Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and cocky at the same time.
Kept quiet about the true nature of his relationship with 50 Cent for a long time. However, that silence ended when 50 suddenly made a random swipe at him. At last, Lloyd made the decision to stand up and set the record straight. It all began when 50 casually mentioned Lloyd and Young Buck in a behind-the-scenes video from his tour that he shared on Instagram. However, the tone? Very dubious. Fans and Lloyd himself didn't enjoy that he seemed to be making fun of Lloyd for not being as well known as he had hoped.
This is something. But today see Lloyd Banks.
And that's exactly what sets Lloyd. Apart from 50, Lloyd's has never really engaged in the shade-filled interviews and social media that 50 Cent loves. Up until now, he has maintained his composure, remained quiet, and avoided the internet. In a rare interview, Lloyd was finally asked directly about his relationship with 50, and he didn't hold back. He addressed the rumors, the disrespect, and especially that long-standing narrative that he was lazy. And you could tell this wasn't just about music. It was intimate. Lloyd explained that during the time 50 was calling him unmotivated, he was actually dealing with something heavy, grieving the loss of his father. He said he was going through real-life pain, and instead of support from someone he thought was family, he got put on blast. Not once, but over and over again. In interviews, in books, even in memes, 50 made it a running joke.
Banks' temperament was definitely a little crazy. I'm not saying anything here that I haven't said to Banks directly. Another time I sat down with him, just when IG was starting to pop off, and tried to drop this gem on him. You gotta get on Instagram, I encouraged him. You can be a little awkward in person, so this is actually a better way for you to communicate with people. Nah, I don't want to do what he said. Why not? You can literally put punchlines under your pictures, make some new fans. Nah, that's corny, he told me. When Banks made that comment to me, I realized he had gone as far as he can go. In fact, My exact thought was, this is someone I can't invest another minute or dollar in.
And while 50 did give Lloyd a little credit by calling him a decent lyricist, he didn't hold back on the rest. He claimed Lloyd just didn't have the natural charisma or the drive it takes to really be a...
He's a very good lyricist. Among what are known as the punchline rappers who will end their bars with a funny or tongue-in-cheek line, Banks liked to call himself the PLK, or Punchline King. I don't know if he's the king, but I'll give it to him that he's in the conversation. He is not, however, a great live performer, stylish dresser, or a domineering personality. So if he doesn't check those 3 boxes, how is he going to get bigger and become the star in real life he is?
According to Banks, 50 was never truly there for him, especially not during the dark moments when support would have mattered the most. And for Banks, that betrayal cut deeper than any diss track. He also pushed back on the idea that he fell off. Since 2021, he's quietly dropped 3 full-length albums as part of his Course of the Inevitable series. There were no major label campaigns or catchy radio singles, just raw lyricism, consistency, and a clear passion for the craft. See, Banks never stopped rapping. He just stopped playing the industry's game. That's really where the split between him and 50 started. Banks was never flashy, never chasing attention, and definitely not looking to go viral. He's a rapper, someone who values bars over buzz. That kind of energy doesn't work. If you're not helping build the empire, then you're a liability. And Banks, he wasn't trying to be a foot soldier anymore. To understand how deep this goes, you have to remember their roots. Banks, 50, and Tony Yayo all came up together in South Jamaica, Queens. These weren't industry-forged friendships. These were kids from the same block trying to escape the struggle through music. When 50's Get Rich or Die Trying exploded, he pulled his crew up with him. G-Unit became more than a rap group, it was a movement. And when it came to bars, Banks stood out. 50 had the charisma and hooks, but Banks brought that cold delivery and intricate wordplay. Fans recognized that right away. His mixtapes Money in the Bank and Cold Corner cemented his rep early. Then came the hunger for more in 2004, platinum in under a month. On Fire, Karma, and I'm So Fly all hits. At that moment, it looked like G-Unit was an unstoppable force. You had 50 dominating the charts, Banks making his name as a serious lyricist, Yayo playing his part, and later on Young Buck and Game adding more energy. G-Unit was everywhere: music, merch, sneakers, video games. But as the money and fame grew, so did the tension. Buck got booted, Game started moving rogue, and the whole crew started losing that tight-knit feel. That's when Banks began to withdraw even more. He was never loud or in your face to begin with, but now he was ghosting events and skipping press, and fans started wondering if he even cared anymore. But behind the scenes, the story was different. Banks wasn't being lazy, he was hurting. Losing his father unmotivated in interviews, books, and memes. The public embarrassment was nonstop. And even though 50 claimed he did everything to help Banks grow, he also kept doubling down on the same disrespectful narrative. He said Banks didn't have the hunger, didn't evolve with the times, and didn't understand the business. But maybe Banks didn't want to evolve into something he wasn't. He wasn't trying to be a brand, he just wanted to rap. And for some fans, that's exactly why they still ride for him to this day. Because in a world full of clout chasers and gimmicks, Banks stayed true to himself. And maybe that cost him some commercial shine, but it earned him a different kind of respect.
I had communication with Banks for a long period of time, right?
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him, what a problem. I put him, like, where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip club,
No, he goes though.
but you don't go.
No, I don't see me there. We went to Atlantic City. We was in it was a showcase. They expect a show to happen
Performance.
tonight. Yeah, like, yeah, we will see you at the show tonight. And I go, oh, they expecting a show. Like, I was like, yo, call all of them, tell them to come here. When I asked Banks, like, when you go to perform your shows, you don't do this song? This is the hardest record on your album. And he's like, why? Because you want it? I looked at it and I was like, trying to understand where he was coming from. He had been on my last record. He's like, I ain't been on your record, this is not. And I was like, so what? You don't have to be on none of my records. Like, me being on your records is the favor. I put you on a record with Eminem on my first album, fool. Don't nobody even know you. We were anticipating success, not as much success as we actually had. And it would have been sufficient if we had half the success.
50 claimed Banks had all the talent in the world but lacked the hustle to match. He even criticized him for not wanting to be on social media, saying it hurt his visibility and marketability. But for Banks, staying quiet wasn't a strategic move, it's just who he is. He's always been private, more about bars than branding. And he never wanted to play the industry game. To his core fans, that made him authentic. But to 50, that made him a risk someone who wouldn't help expand the empire the way he envisioned. Then came Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, a 50s book, where he really let loose. He didn't just speak generally, he named names. He singled out both Banks and Yeo, claiming they were mentally stuck in the early 2000s, refusing to grow with the times. According to 50, Banks was too comfortable in his lane, too set in his ways, and too resistant to change. He painted him as someone with major potential who never fully tapped into it. In his words, Banks wasn't hungry enough. He saw him as a rapper who could have been massive but chose to stay in the shadows, and in 50's mind, that was the biggest.
He was around 14 years old when Biggie and Pac were both popping. So that makes sense that they still resonate with him so deeply. I can relate. I still love the music from when I was that age too. The difference is I haven't patterned my career after KRS-One and Coogee Rap. What would be the point of that? They were both incredible in their moment. But I've always been concerned about creating my own moment rather than copying theirs. Years ago, I told Banks to film a video of his life and post it on YouTube. Introduce people to his lifestyle. Let the camera follow him around for a while and see how he moves. Maybe something he says or does will create a spark, go viral, and then he'll have some heat around him again. What I didn't want him to do was sit there writing punchline after punchline and then grow resentful when no one seemed to care about his mixtapes anymore. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Before adding Biggie and Pac didn't do that shit. They're dead, my man, I told him. They died before this stuff was even invented. And how do you know they wouldn't be posting on IG if they were alive? It was a line of thinking that really blew my mind. It suggested that if Tupac was alive, he'd still be wearing leather vests and red bandanas tied around his head, sending girls his beeper number. Or that Biggie would still be wearing Coogee sweaters and playing Mortal Kombat 2 every night. In Banks' case, a lot of his failure to grow as an artist is connected to his emotional composition. Banks grew up in the same neighborhood as me, but was never a part of it in the same way. I actually hustled with his father. Banks was more content staying on his porch and watching the world from there. There's nothing wrong with that, but it underscored a particular aspect of his personality. Banks wanted things to come to him, as opposed to going out and getting them for himself. That's not me trying to assassinate his character. The guy has Lazy Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and cocky at the same time. The kind of person most comfortable being a big fish in a small pond. If Banks was hanging out in the studio with a bunch of unknown MCs, he'd be very confident. He'd enjoy being the center of attention. But if I suddenly showed up, he'd feel like he got demoted. He'd be bitter. He didn't feel like the center of attention anymore. I get it. I can take up a lot of the air in the room. The problem is that he'd never fight to get some of that oxygen back, which is exactly what a star is supposed to do. I believe a true star must possess 4 fundamental abilities: create great material, be a high-energy live performer, have a unique appearance, and possess a strong personality. Tupac had all 4. So does Mary J. Blige, Chris Brown too. If I'm being honest in evaluating Banks, he possesses maybe one of those qualities.
This book was the first time 50 publicly created that much space between himself and Banks. It wasn't just light jabs or playful shade anymore, it was clear 50 was drawing a line, saying Banks didn't have what it takes to grow with the brand. And even though Banks stayed quiet in interviews, fans believe he responded through music. On his track, Stranger Things, many picked up on lyrics that seemed to address the tension with 50 directly, showing he was aware of what was being said and how it felt coming from someone he once considered a brother. This is where Lloyd's and 50's perspectives completely split. For 50, success is loud, big, and global, measurable through impact and dollars. But for Banks, he's found peace in a quieter lane. To him, success is about doing what you love on your own terms and being able to support your family while staying true to yourself. And let's not forget, Banks isn't denying. He had lazy moments. He literally got a lazy tattoo and even admitted in interviews that he heard 50's criticisms and understood where they were coming from. But in his eyes, acknowledging flaws and choosing peace over fame doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human.
But when you came to that room, we talked about, I think I irritated him earlier, playing with the entourage. With MO and them, like, cause I look.
So Lloyd doesn't shy away from admitting he's more of a laid-back type of guy. But to him, that's not the same as being lazy. He's just never been interested in the drama and clout chasing that often comes with being in the industry spotlight. He wants to create music, release it on his own terms, and let it speak for itself without all the extra noise. But from the 50's point of view, that approach looked like a lack of hunger or drive. And that's where a lot of the tension between them really started to build. There's also the loyalty factor. If there's one thing the 50's has always been vocal about, it's that loyalty is everything to him. In fact, in his book, he even said he'd rather be held at gunpoint than be betrayed by someone close. So when people in his circle, especially those he helped bring into the spotlight, start moving differently or distancing themselves, 50 sees it as a personal betrayal. And once he feels that way, he doesn't hold back, he cuts ties and lets the world know.
I'd rather be robbed at gunpoint than be betrayed. Not that I suggest you try it. At least getting robbed is exciting. There's an undeniable rush when somebody pulls out their piece and growls, "Get on the fucking floor." Once it's over, provided you don't get shot, you can go tell your friends, "Yo, they just stuck me up." Your pockets might be lighter, but you'll be much stronger overall, having survived the experience. Getting betrayed is different. You don't get a great war story out of it. I've never heard anyone get hyped telling their friends, "Yo, you won't believe this, but I just got backstabbed by my mans." There are no stripes earned for that shit. When you open yourself up to someone, either financially or emotionally, and they go left on you, it's a different kind of pain, even more dramatic than a stick-up kid physically taking something from you. Like Malcolm X said, to me, the thing that is worse than death is betrayal. You see, I can conceive death, but I could not conceive betrayal.
And the way 50 explained it, he truly believes he gives his all to the people he brings into his circle. He's the type to ride for you, promote you, invest in you, and even take risks for you. So when those same people switch up, pull back, or move in a way that feels disloyal to him, that's worse than death. It's not just business, it's personal. And when he feels betrayed, there's no going back.
Because I find betrayal so painful, I put incredible thought and consideration into the people who surround me. As I detailed in this chapter, when I was first coming up, I made a mistake of confusing loyalty and location. It's a miscalculation a lot of people make, wanting to believe that just because someone is from the same streets as you, that they're gonna have your back forever. I learned the hard way that that's not the case. I think everyone's a little afraid of being too trustful, but I'm definitely worse than most. In my life, I feel like I've been betrayed by people I deserve better from, people I've given money to, opportunities to, love to, even life to. Because of that, for a long time, the only thing I had faith in was money. I only trusted the paper that says, "In God we trust." This is one of the reasons the theme of betrayal is so prominent in my show Power. It's an issue that's always on my mind, so much so that I even called the last season The Final Betrayal.
So, it's not just about Lloyd Banks. 50 Cent has made it clear that he takes loyalty seriously, no matter who it is. Over the years, he's distanced himself from people he felt weren't on the same page, including his own son, Marquise. Their relationship broke down, and 50 felt like the loyalty wasn't there. Instead of trying to fix things publicly, he decided to move on. For 50, trust and loyalty are important, and once that breaks, it's hard for him to look at the relationship.
Actually, your son wants to sit down with you.
No, he doesn't. See, Charlamagne, you would call me. You don't call TMZ to say you want to sit down. Think about it, man. You know, you want some attention. And it's okay, you can have as much of that as you want. You know, it's just like he's been trained to believe what you see him say in that interview, that what he was saying, he's been trained to believe that for a long time. Like, you don't just wake up and say, "Oh, well, I don't believe what I've been believing forever."
But never be open to it?
No, I don't think the relationship works. For a long time, Charlamagne, I went running behind him.
I went places that he went, and he left the place.
So 50 is willing to distance himself from his own son over what he sees as disloyalty. It's no surprise that even his close friends might not be safe. Tony Yayo, another original G-Unit member, was known for being one of 50's most loyal people. For years, Yayo stood by his side through everything, but even he wasn't untouchable. When whispers of disloyalty started floating around, whether they were accurate or not, 50 didn't hold back. He called Yayo out publicly, showing that in his world, any sign of switching up comes with consequences.
If you don't do it, like if I don't give him something that he wanted murder, then he's gonna go back to doing what we did. You remember saying that to me? You don't remember saying that? Yeah, tell him, you be telling Vlad all kind of I don't want to get into all that.
Yeah. Look better than Vlad. You think you tell me the fact?
Nice. You don't even look like the same dude to me
nice
on
for them
Vlad.
stories.
Merc, the real shit coming out.
And then there's young Buck. Back in the early 2000s, Buck played a major role in G-Unit's rise. His energy, style, and Southern influence helped the group reach a broader audience. But as soon as 50 Cent sensed any kind of disloyalty from Buck, things went downhill fast. 50 didn't just distance himself quietly, he kicked Buck out of the group publicly. And in dramatic fashion. Diss tracks, leaked phone calls, and online jabs followed, making it clear that once 50 feels betrayed, there's no going back.
I think that's over. I think that's done, but
What do you mean?
I think his career is finished. You know what I'm saying? And it's because, like, his temperament, he won't actually get himself, like, right now he's in jail, but knowing who he is from the entire time that he's been around, I don't think he has what it takes to recover from, you know, like, it takes discipline at that point, because it's when people begin to want to give you resistance. Hip-hop culture is out with the old and with the new.
Who was once one of Unit's biggest stars, got hit with the same treatment. We all remember how messy 50 and Game's fallout was. It was one of the most talked about beefs in hip-hop history. So when 50 saw that reunion photo of Lloyd Banks and the Game years later, that was it for him. He saw it as a betrayal. In a since-deleted Instagram post, 50 reacted with some cryptic shade. He wrote, "What do you see when you look at this picture? I see confusion. I'm not sure if it's just me. I'm cancer-ish. Don't get old with me. I never ask for trouble, but I really don't have a problem with it. I'm different." He finished by asking, "The question isn't how I feel about it, but how does Lloyd Banks feel about it? Some's asterisk is just better off left alone." So now that Banks has finally spoken his piece, do you think he and 50 will ever reconcile? Or has too much damage been done over the years? Let me know your thoughts down below and check out this next video right here for more. Stay sharp and stay tuned.